Good evening. It's Wednesday at 7 o'clock. This is the only show dedicated to Alberta Landlords. You're tuned in to the Alberta Shoptalk show. I'm your host, MacKenzie Wilson. Chris is out on assignment, as he likes to put it. He's actually on a father-son trip with some tags hunting up in central Alberta right now. So I wish him luck. I hope he's enjoying it out there, having some good weather and some good luck out there. And in his replacement, I've brought in my newly minted co-host, Bill Biko. Bill, how are you doing this evening?
Great, MacKenzie. How you doing? Good to be back.
Awesome.
Good to fill in while Chris is out cavorting and having some fun. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I like your yellow shirt. It's like almost reminiscent of a last day of summer, but we're about 3 days off.
one day too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we've got kind of a cool show lineup tonight. I went through, and if you guys know yourselves getting tagged in a post or two, we are picking up your questions for tonight's show. So we do have Bill, wealth of experience, joining us to help answer your questions, as well as I made some last minute shuffles, and I found a friend of mine up in Edmonton who can join us tonight. He's been here before. His name is Wayne Hillier, another wealth of information. Wayne, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks for having me back on again, man. This is awesome. Really appreciate it.
Brilliant, man. Absolutely stoked to have you back. So, yeah, we're going to talk about the nitty-gritty of being a landlord. We're going to dig into some good questions. Of course, folks, as always, just pop in a comment, say hello, say where you're watching from. We'll start throwing up some conversation points to get the conversation going. And feel free to ask away any of your questions. We do give a priority to the live questions when they come in, and we'll want to get those answered before we get back into the ones that we picked up from the Facebook group. So I don't know, maybe let's get into it. Should I grab our first question and see what we've got?
Let's run with it. Let's go.
Perfect. Of course, I don't have my questions again.
All right. Can I read it out loud for you?
I have them on the right here, so I'll copy and paste. They should be inside our yard stream where I can just turn them on the screen for you guys, but we'll make it work, no problem. So let me grab the first one. It's a little bit of a longer one, but that's okay. Post a comment.
I think Wayne knows the answer to this one.
From on the spot. Here you go, Wayne. All right. A bit of a situation that I'm pretty sure I know how to answer to, but looking for input. I own an up-down duplex. The two people living in the basement are on a lease until January 31st, 2021. One of the two bought a house last week and gave notice that she'll be vacating at the end of October. The other girl in the apartment says she can't afford the rent, and therefore she has also given her notice at the end of October as well. She says she wants to stay, but doesn't know enough people in the area to find another roommate. I know leases are binding, and therefore they're liable to pay rent until the end of the rental term. But what are my obligations here? What is the right thing to do? They've been good tenants while they're there, but it seems that they're think they can move out with 27 days notice. So will there be no consequence? Any advice? Thank you and Adam wrote this message.
And Adam's here tonight too. He's already excited to hear the answer.
Perfect. He's got the first question and he's on. That's awesome.
Wayne just looked up the answer right there. He's got it. You want to go?
That's a bit of a doozy. It was a long one. I was going to take note. So so if I could try and summarize that, there's an up down, but which is completely irrelevant. So there's a basement suite with two tenants living in there. One of them decided to buy a house and leave. The remaining one says, I can't find another roommate.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Sorry. Yeah, that's right. She says she can't find a roommate. That's right. Can't find a roommate, so she's given her notice as well at the same time at the end of the month. So basically, first things first here, it's a fixed term. So unfortunately, both tenants are what's the right word here, Bill? Breaking the lease. They're in default. They can't do that. If they've been good, obviously the right thing is to work with these tenants and find a situation that does work. The second gal who no longer can afford the rent, I think she could probably look around a little bit harder, because there's good tenants everywhere right now looking for places. You know, we're still in the end of the renter season right now. We're not quite into winter yet. We are getting there, but there's still definitely people looking to rent. So, I mean, I guess, Adam, you've got kind of a decision here to make on how to handle it. One thing to note, they are liable until you find a renter to replace it, and you have to be actively advertising. So they've given you this notice today, and you're not shopping around, or you don't get listed tomorrow onto Facebook Marketplace or wherever you're using Rent Faster. That creates a law that you would be liable for that rent. And maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, if I'm interpreting those rules right.
You're supposed to mitigate your losses. So you have to take responsibility to get the property filled as quickly as possible. If there's a gap in there, the tenants are responsible, and your unexpected advertising costs, the tenants are responsible. So in the grand scheme of things, you should actually leverage that and leverage more of this, because there's an opportunity you may not be able to fill it. So you have to first let both the tenants know they're both responsible for this. They're both on the lease though. It doesn't matter if one of them's give you notice, both of them give you notice, one of them's leaving, both of them are leaving. They're all on the lease. They're all responsible. You can come after all of them. So there is a little bit of pressure about that. If the place doesn't get filled, or if you're renting it for less, they could theoretically be responsible for that gap. You know, it's a real pain and a real annoyance to have to go through the process of trying to get that money and obtaining it. But you can do it. So let them know that, and say, let's work together to get this place rented. You know, make it easy for me to show the place, keep it clean, keep it nice and shiny. And who knows, with the current market, you didn't say where you're at, Adam. Is that Calgary?
Yeah, Adam, post what area, what city or location you're renting from, or your rentals in.
The landlords here in Calgary are finding that when they're getting vacancies, initially they're going, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then they discover that they were actually able to raise rent $75 or $150 because the market's gotten so much tighter down here. And it's like, oh, maybe it's not quite as bad as I thought it was. And they're finding tenants in 2 or 3 days. And it's like, hey, this isn't so bad. So, you know, kind of take a peek. Maybe your rents are going to go up a little bit. Maybe this is going to turn into a win scenario by the time you're done. You know, but leverage those tenants. Let them know they are on the hook for this, and they are responsible for some of these costs that are going to get incurred, and the vacancy if it runs on too long. So they need to work with you. They need to make sure that they can, you know, be ready to show, or even show it themselves if they want. You know.
Well, Wayne, what's your thoughts on this?
The whole time I'm hearing all this, like, I'm just thinking about, like, people, if like someone from Ontario or BC came into this chat, they would be so angry because we have it so good here. Because I'm listening to this and I'm like, well, what's his name? Sorry, Adam. Adam, you're in a great position. You haven't done anything wrong. So long as you don't accept their notice, so long as you don't accept their termination, because it doesn't matter how much notice they give you, it's abandonment. They've abandoned the property, and obviously all those things that Bill said about you have to mitigate your losses. You have to, you know, actively try and find a replacement. But you're in a great position. I mean, you will win if you have to go to the RTDRS. It's just how far do you want to go? Adam asked, "What's the right thing to do?" That's a tough one.
You know, it's a business. So and let's split it this way. Sandy's been on our show before. She's a Calgary-based landlord. She's got exceptional systems and paperwork in place. She left a pro tip, I don't know if it was last week's show or maybe 2 weeks ago. She's been on a few times. But what she does, she has a form, and I don't have a technical name for it, but you can make up something similar. She gets the tenant, she goes to the tenant, she gets them to sign, and the form says, okay, I will work with you on this rental, but you have to give me access to this rental at any time to show it with, you know, a couple hours notice, not 24 hours. So the tenant is working with you to help fill that vacancy easier. So you're getting written permission right off the hop from the tenant to get early access to the property. You know, there's usually a lease break fee, and she has I have to go back and look at the last show. I don't have the proper wording, but she positions it really well. She puts, like, you know, just so we're not breaking rules and you're not in you're not living illegal or something like that. She has some nifty wording there. You know, I need you to pay this fee so I can get it relisted, so you're not breaking the law. And then she'll get the tenants they are breaking the lease by trying to get out early. Well, she'll get them to pay the lease break fee up front before she starts marketing the property. So then if they pay the lease break fee, that's like another admission that they're breaking the lease. So then you're actually building up your paperwork trail in case things go sideways. But you get that early access, make your job easier, and tell them, hey, you know what? If you guys go and find tenants for me, and I can qualify them and go through your typical due diligence. Don't skip on any of that. And then maybe you can say, you know what? I'll refund you your lease break fee. And if you've outsourced all the work of replacing your tenant to your tenants, even better. And they win, they get to move out, and you're still covering, you still have your rent coming in.
And maybe even higher rent.
And yeah, if market rents, like what Bill said, if things are improved, you might get an additional $50, $100 a month out of it right now. Why not?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think it's a good reminder that roommates are a horrible idea. And anyone who's ever had a roommate, it's never gone well. So I typically don't let roommates live together. I have one property and I thought this is going to be great. They're really great female students. Nah, it still didn't work out.
No.
It's tough. It's tough living with roommates.
Yeah. That's a good point you raised there, Wayne, is maybe having a conversation on how to like qualify a relationship. I mean, maybe get into like the marital therapist kind of world there, and yeah, you might be asking too much.
Right. It doesn't seem to matter. Like even happily married couples, I've had separate over time. So it's kind of a crapshoot sometimes. You know, everything is wonderful, and then 2 or 3 years later, something goes sideways. Somebody gets. You never know. You just never know.
Fair enough.
Everything's good at first.
If someone's got a great pro tip, throw it in the comments, add it to the group. I would love to learn because, I try to avoid that with the 10-foot pole as well. All right, so I don't know. This has been a huge help. I really appreciate it. One more question. They've informed me of their intent to move over text only. Yes, so should I request an email? Absolutely. This is a great point you raise up, Adam, and we've talked about this in the past, is get your documentation from multiple avenues, multiple mediums. So you can save a phone conversation, you have it in text, back it up by writing it more formally in an email, kind of cover the details that are important, when they wrote it, when they expect to give you a notice, all these different things. Just get some more emails going.
And remind them of their responsibilities.
Yes, and as Bill says, remind them of the responsibilities. Yeah, say that they are so legally bound, but position is, I will work with you if you help me get this vacancy taken care of, and you can really put it back in their hands that you're helping them by allowing them to break all the lease if they do these things for you. But definitely layer that documentation, because if it does go sideways and you have to go down to the Queen's Court bench, if I say that right, or the RTRS, you're going to need this documentation to win your case. And Bill, what do you usually say, a typical case that you take that's ironclad, how many pages do you usually have documented?
80 to 120 pages. So,
yeah.
Bam.
And Bill, you don't lose often, do you?
I've never lost. I don't like to lose.
Exactly. Love it. Okay, cool. Adam, if you got other questions, feel free to throw a follow-up. We're going to jump to the next question, and we can come back to it if you've got more burning questions. So let's put one in here again. Okay. So service dogs and emotional support dogs are different when it comes to certification, discrimination, and such. Let's focus on the certified service dog. Someone had mentioned that a landlord is not allowed to charge a pet fee for a service dog, as they are not a pet. If landlords rewrote their lease and said animal fee, would this work in charging that fee? A fee like this is not specifically for damage the animal may do, but it also limits your potential renters due to allergies. Thoughts, anyone? And this question came from Rebecca Campbell. Thanks, Rebecca.
So I haven't seen this in the act. Is there a section that says you can't charge a pet fee for a service dog?
Somebody did point it out in the original post.
Rob Bowe was on it. So I'll highlight what Rob said. So Rob's one of our eviction specialists out of the Red Deer, Central Alberta area. Probably one of our most experienced guys going through and representing landlords. He's done a ton of cases in both sides of the court, so the Queen's Court as well as the RTDRS. And so Rob is going, if it's going to be a service dog, so this is the service dog that helps someone, it's part of their daily living, this dog goes with them everywhere. I don't think you can actually say no to these dogs, but these dogs are very rare, they're very expensive, they're extremely trained, and they come with, I think Rob said they come with government papers, and I can't remember if that was federally or provincial papers, but they have very clear documentation of the type of dog they are, because someone's basically purchased this dog so they can live more of a normal life and do the everyday activities. Now, there's a whole thing going on, these emotional support dogs, which is kind of what
And
people call them
cats
when
and-
you go in WestJet and you want to bring your pet to wherever you're flying. There's no paperwork. That's just a position a tenant or a customer could be taken. And I think that's what we want to differentiate here. So on that note, she's talking about charging a pet fee. I think Rob kind of answered that in the post, but I wanted to talk about, to get further thought. If it's on the service dogs side of the things, it's someone that needs it because of a disability or that kind of side of it. I don't think you can charge for that. But I haven't come across a situation, so you know what? I should preface that. That's what I think. That's only an opinion. That's definitely not fact. Wow. So Wayne and Bill, what do you guys think?
So
you go first.
Oh, thanks. I have not run into this either. I follow a lot of U.S. landlord stuff. The emotional support animal stuff is just going wacko down there. From dogs, cats, pigs, toads, like they've got everything. And you can actually get these forms to make it legal for free. People will just sign off to give you this animal so that you can have 2 or 3 animals in the house to bypass a bunch of the rules. So it really depends what states you are down there. Alberta, we're a little more landlord friendly, so we don't run into these emotional support animal issues, and they safely fit into your pet fees and everything else at this point, because there's no definitive rules on it yet. The service animals, I guess, if you're dead set against having pets in your property, as long as you're not discriminating against who you're taking in, you don't necessarily have to take that person in. And that can be a fine line as well. So if you have 3 or 4 qualified applicants, you pick who's going to be best for you and for the property, not necessarily who has a pet or dog. So that's my take.
Well, and how common is this, I guess?
Very.
I mean, I've never seen a service, like I've seen a service dog maybe like a half dozen times in my life, let alone I've never once seen any kind of rental situation. I've heard many people use emotional support dogs to get dogs on flights, and that sounds like an everyday kind of pet. So I think the best thing, if someone approaches you and calls it a service dog, ask for papers.
Yeah, and this is more one of those theoretical ones, I think, than an actuality. So
yeah,
analysis paralysis.
And that's very true. Very true.
I completely agree with Bill. Like, this sounds like it's wasting way too much energy. Like, maybe it is a service dog, maybe it isn't service dog, but if you want to charge pet fees, and those pet fees are going to be allocated towards replacing the flooring more, or the paint and stuff like that, if you need pet fees and it's part of your budget for that rental property, then just move on. You know what I mean? Like, how often are you going to run into a situation like this? Yes, it's sad. Someone does need a place to live, but if you're spending all this time, arguing over whether you can charge them a pet fee or not, just move on. Just treat it like a business. Don't let it take that much of your energy.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Okay, cool. Well, let's carry on then. We'll go down the document for yes. Oh, okay. We got a question that just popped up here, so let's kind of stay on that point. I have a question about this too. Since I cannot find the act, I just found another 10. So bang on is what Wayne said. backed up by someone watching the show right now. And I apologize, I don't have your name, so I can't even give you credit.
Trish.
But
Trish Fraser.
Oh, thanks, Chris. Perfect.
Trish.
Or Trish. Sorry. I need a better headset, apparently. Okay, let me find some more information here.
You got to get one of those cool mics as well.
I know. I see both of you guys. I mean, look at Wayne's stuff. It's mint looking. He's got to get one of those little boxes around the mic that has like the Investor Dad podcast.
Logo?
Yeah, your logo.
I'm gonna get a big shelving unit with like footballs and memorabilia and stuff up here too.
Yeah.
LED that goes across.
All right, next question. We'll stay back on point. Okay, so it didn't paste in order. Amazing.
Okay. This is the one basement tenants complaining the upstairs is smoking marijuana. Hey, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm looking for some input. My basement tenant is complaining upstairs tenant is smoking marijuana. I've given 24-hour notice to get access to unit, but obviously they have cleaned it beforehand. If I want to prepare for an eviction, what kind of evidence should I collect? Also, the basement tenant complained that their dog is barking nonstop and she's going to call bylaw. Is there anything I should do as a landlord? Thank you. This question came from Rachel. So Rachel, thanks for the question.
Wayne?
Don't you hate suited houses? This is literally every suited house. Like someone's complaining about the kids downstairs, the other person's complaining, the other person's smoking. I mean, you're going to have to try and find some sort of evidence to prove that they are smoking marijuana. It's going to be tough if they cleaned it. You can't sign an affidavit saying I smelt it. You know what I mean? It's a tough one. Hopefully it's in the lease that it says that marijuana smoking is not, or smoking in general is not allowed. As for the noisy dog downstairs, that's just, there's nothing you can do about that. That's between them. You can obviously send them an email saying that, hey, you know, you're going to have to figure something out for the dog because it's affecting the enjoyment and the for the upstairs tenants, but you can't do anything. So upstairs, absolutely, they can call bylaw, but it would be a noise complaint. It would have to be with outside of those daytime hours. It's a tough one, Bill. You got a better answer?
The only answer is to bluff a little bit and document.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to come down and basically say, hey, we're getting some complaints, and obviously they're going to know where the complaints are coming from, but we're getting complaints that there's marijuana smoking in the property. You understand there's no smoking in the property, and it's going to be grounds for eviction if it continues. On top of that, we're having some issues, and this is probably not quite as big a thing, but the dog seems to be barking during the day. If we can't keep that under control, we may have to discuss what we're going to do further on. Now you've got it on paper. If it starts becoming more of an issue, you do another notice and you build up that evidence till you get to your 80 to 120 pages. As Wayne said, you know, cigarette smoking and marijuana smoking, it is so hard to evict somebody unless you've got evidence that can be proved. Mm-hmm. It's like the he said, she said stuff just won't cut it. And, you know, I can understand from the tenant's side standpoint, you know, if you've got a bad landlord, it's easy to just pretend that they're smoking to try and evict them. But so you got to have evidence, mm-hmm. whether it's statements and pictures from the upstairs tenant or whatever it is. So right now you're kind of stuck in limbo. So start building up that documentation and get prepared for a lot of fallout as they both start hating each other, because obviously that's not going to work. And that kind of brings me to another point. When you do have suited properties, it's so important to get tenants that match up. Mm-hmm. You know, if you've got somebody that hates kids upstairs, don't put a family with a young kid downstairs. You know, get to know your tenants a little bit so you can see and match things up. I think that won't guarantee it's going to work, but it can help ease some of these issues later. And it sounds like
improve the odds. Yeah. So, I mean, to your point too, Bill, I wanted to add on that. I would put the onus back on the tenant, be like, listen, I will definitely go down and enforce the proper bylaws and make sure you've, you know, what would be the right word? Proper enjoyment of your rental, but I need evidence to pursue that path. So if this dog's barking, get your phone out. We all have smartphones, record a video, time of day, and capture that on film and do that. Like it can't just be a single occurrence. It has to be You have to show it's an ongoing issue, but put the onus back on the tenant to help you get that evidence. If they're able to collect that, then man, that's the information you need to get rid of the hearsay that both Wayne and Bill just talked about. So that's how I would handle the situation is put the ball back in the tenant's court and say, hey, I'm on your side. I want to have everyone have fair enjoyment of their property. That's what I take pride in, but I can't evict over hearsay. I need black and white evidence. Here's what you can do to help me out.
And I guess one other thing to add to this. So we got to remember with the rule changes, marijuana is not illegal.
Mm-hmm.
So you can remind them that while it's not illegal for them to smoke it, it is illegal for them to smoke it inside your premises if it's in your lease, but it's a non-smoking property. So if they want to go outside and smoke in the backyard, if you have access to the backyard, whatever your setup is, that's an entirely different scenario, and it's all legal, and they can do that, and it's out of your property, just not in my freaking property.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, someone's mentioned here, how about you talk to the tenant upstairs and ask them to use oil instead of smoking because it is smoking. Just thinking. Yeah, I mean, if they want to vape it, I have it in my lease, black and white. There's no vaping or smoking in my properties. If they want to go outside and stand out by the garage 10 feet from the house and do it, like power to you. That's fine. I mean, as long as there's no garbage on the ground, I could care less. But it can't happen in the house. But yeah, maybe switch the drug of choice there.
Go to needles.
Has there been any research? I mean, vaping's been around for a couple of years now about like the long-term effects of it on like paint or walls. Is it staining? Is it doing any of that stuff?
On vaping, you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it depends on what kind of vaping. There's so much chemicals in a lot of the stuff that's out there, and I think they're trying to really clamp down on that. That's what a lot of the back feedback is right now. They're clamping down. Some of the stuff like the drug pens that you can get, it's entirely different than these. You've probably all seen it. You're driving down the road and suddenly there's this big puff of smoke coming out of somebody's window.
Yeah.
I can't see how that's good for the property, the big puffs of smoke. But apparently some of these other newer modern vaping devices, low residue, high heat, so there's no massive exhaust, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, the jury's out.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no clear information.
But it's still not allowed, so don't do it in my house.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, next question here. Hi all, please excuse this question if it sounds very naive. We are very new landlords. We are currently renting out our house by the room, and we have one tenant in there. She's female, and we're hoping to fill the remaining rooms with females. So this is a rooming scenario, not renting out a house as a whole. It's rented out room by room. My understanding was that we could not say females only in our ad, so that I did not post as such. I have a male applicant. Do you have any advice on how I should respond to his application? And this question came from Laura. Bill, you're the rooming expert in the room here. Mm-hmm. What would you say in the scenario?
So we're pretty wide open in Alberta as far as what we can typically advertise. So when I was running all my rooming houses, I ran male only. And once every 8 or 9 months, I'd get somebody freaking out saying I was discriminating. And in my particular case, which was a little bit different, my response was, listen, this is a safety thing. I don't screen these tenants as much as I would regular tenants. I do have former convicts. I do have people I don't know their background on. I'm not going to jeopardize somebody's safety by putting them in an environment where I don't know who they're going to be with, which is why I'm male only. You can kind of swing it the other way. We're a female only property, and I'm not going to get into the discrimination aspect of that. You might have to make a few calls to some of the government agencies to confirm that, but you should be able to get away with that just in a living arrangement like that, especially because you're renting out rooms and you get a little bit more leeway. And you don't necessarily have to pick somebody that's applying to your place. You can just say, I've decided to rent to somebody else, and continue searching. And then when the person comes back and says, well, I thought it was gone. It's like, we're still looking. The person fell through, and we have some other applicants, so we just continue to gather applicants until it's good.
Yeah. And Wayne, any more thoughts?
I mean, I would probably put it in the listing that there is a female already living there, and 2 other or 3 other females would be a perfect fit for this, this unit or something like that, or this house. You don't have to necessarily say that you prefer it. And as far as the application goes, you don't have to say anything. You just say, we'll let you know if we decide on it, or you know what I mean? Or you can just not answer. You don't have to do anything. Just don't say why. That's the only thing. Now, roommates, if I'm correct, is not part of the RTA, right? It's part of the Innkeepers Act. Is that correct?
Sort of. Used to be.
Used to be.
Well, it used to be much more. The problem is people don't follow the Innkeepers Act, and they want to fall under the Innkeepers Act because it's got better rules for them. So there's certain stuff you're supposed to do. You're supposed to have posted on each room that you are under the Innkeepers Act, and you have to have other stuff posted. So much like a hotel, how they've got the little signs in the rooms.
Yeah,
right.
Information. But people don't do that. What we're finding through the courts, because if there is an issue, it has to go through the courts, not through the RTDRS. It almost falls down to contract law. So, if you use the same lease that you use for your regular rentals that states in there, we default to the Residential Tenancy Act rules. Well, now so does your room rental. So, you need a separate lease that's specifically for the room with all the rules broken into it. And this is what happens if you break the lease. This is what happens if this happens, et cetera, et cetera. So same thing, and turn it more into a contract that if somebody breaks, they're in breach of a contract.
That's a good point. The paperwork's pretty key in this situation.
Yes.
I think a lot of people get all super worried about like, oh, I know I'm not supposed to say this, and you should do everything by the book. But I'm telling you, that tenant that sent in the application, if you said, hey, sorry, no mails, he's not going to go run and take you to court over it. You know what I mean? He's probably going to make a big fuss about it, but he's not going to go and do anything about it. So don't worry too much. But of course, you do want to stay out of that gray area.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, in this case, I think the best tip what you just gave out there, Bill, was saying if you're going to run the rooming strategy, is you got to adjust your paperwork to match that. So you don't want to have reference to the RTA, else you're forcing yourself to go down that act, and do the proper signage of hotel. This is the same laws that govern hotels. Am I right there? Okay,
Yeah.
good. I was waiting for the nod. So if you have a receipt from a hotel at a recent stay, look at that contract. There's a template for you right there, paid by a big organization or business that put money to put that together. It's not going to be too far different if you're going to run the same thing on a smaller scale. So there's a shortcut to get some paperwork, but and evictions too on the whole rooming side are a lot more completely different than from an RTA and a normal residential lease. So yes, let's continue on to the next question. When given the statement of account for deductions, are receipts for services deducted for services? Oh my God, let me try this again. Okay, when given the statement of account, what's that?
I had a hard time with this too.
Okay, when given the statement of account for deductions, are receipts for services deducted damaged property replaced if when tenants request receipts specifically to justify the cost? This is from Janine. So I'm thinking what she's asking here is do you need to include receipts when doing your statements of accounts and you're doing your deductions off of damage deposits? I have not really deducted. Well, I know I have, and I have not done this correctly. So I gave an estimate and I did it and she accepted it. So I didn't give her receipts, but I hadn't been challenged on it either. So Bill, have you been challenged on this?
No, people don't like challenging me. I'm grumpy. You have to be able to justify the costs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you can't randomly pick numbers. So you have to be able to show that cleaners cost $35 an hour and that may involve having, previous quotes. You have to show that the patch of the wall that has to be repaired because there's a hole in it is 2 hours worth of labor and is going to cost $95. You have to be able to justify it all. So you don't necessarily have to have the receipts for it because it may not be done yet, but you simply have to justify it. So
third-party validation through quotes, things of that nature. Or even if you went and printed ads, and maybe even go to job sites or job ads saying, private cleaner for hire, $45 an hour.
Yeah, I mean, the grumpy tenant will come back and say, well, I could do it for half that price. It's like, well, then why didn't you do it before?
Yeah, exactly.
You're going right. It cost me $2 to buy a light bulb, but it cost me $5 to do the labor to change a light bulb. So I'm charging you $7 for each light bulb that's burnt out that you didn't replace. Mm-hmm. And, part of that is once you've got notice from the tenant or you've given them notice that you're not renewing, you need to give them a copy of what your terms are for all the cleaning. So they're aware that, it's $45 or $35 an hour for cleaning. It's $5 per light bulb. It's, all these little things. So that there's no gray area. This is what it is. And this is what my deductions were after the fact.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this is only important if you're actually going to a hearing, if your tenant is taking you and disputing it. Like Bill said, nobody ever disputes him, so it doesn't matter what he puts on there. But if you're going to a hearing, you need to have evidence that there was something damaged and a receipt to show that you fixed it. If you have those two things, you will win every single time. They can't dispute that. It doesn't matter if they charge $65 an hour for cleaning. That's what it costs to fix it, as long as it's not outrageous.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have those receipts, but you have pictures, now it's up to the discretion of the mediator. Now they're going to look at it and be like, well, it probably cost about this much, and they'll try and find a happy medium. But if you want to win your hearing, have your pictures, have your receipts. Don't try and fake it and say it cost $400 to paint that wall. Show the actual receipt.
Yeah, or get the quotes, right? Get the trades and quotes. Get third party to back up your numbers. You don't like what Bill said. You don't need the actual receipt to the business if you end up fixing it yourself. But if you were to pay out of pocket, here's 3 trades that charge $45 an hour. That's the number I use, and that's why. So cool. I love it, man. We're making good progress here. Let's fire up the next question. So Paige asked this question. Wanting to rent our house while leaving it on the market for sale. How do I write this into the lease? Bill, I see you smiling, so how about I give you a first crack at this?
I'm going to give Wayne a crack on this one
Bill, I don't actually know. I've never actually dealt with it. I've bought a house with a tenant in it, and we ended up accepting them and keeping them in until the end of their lease was over. I vaguely remember reading something about 3 months. There's a 3-month notice. Am I correct?
So I guess the question is, what are you selling the house as? Are you selling it as a rental? Or are you trying to sell it to somebody as their home? If you're selling it as a rental, there might be an appeal to have a tenant in there. If you're selling it as a home for somebody because it doesn't work as a rental, and that's why you're selling it, why would you bother putting a tenant in there? You're just making it harder on yourself. You're leaving yourself open to so many more issues. Get the tenant out, get the property marketed and sold. The few extra $100 that you're going to save by having a tenant in there could add 2 or 3 or 4 months before you even sell the property. And who knows what's going to happen in the market in 4 months. Get them out, get it cleaned up, get it shiny and sparkling, and get it sold. So, I would skip the lease part and go the easy route. And I mean, I have a little segue. MacKenzie and I were talking about this earlier. A lot of people, I'm seeing posts in the different landlord groups, they want to sell their rental property. Is your rental property actually a good rental? So many of these landlords are selling their rental property that they bought in 2005. Yeah. 2005. And 2005, they bought it for $150,000. Now it's $300,000. You can't cash flow on the property. Why would you sell it as a rental? So if you are a landlord, do the numbers on the property. Go, what would it cost to own and operate this, and what would I make off of it? Oh, I'd lose $300 a month. So obviously, a serious investor is not going to buy this property. So either I have to luck out find somebody who has absolutely no idea what they're doing, in which case, why am I advertising on all the landlord sites?
Mhm.
Or maybe I have to change my whole marketing and realize that this is a single family home and it needs to be sold as a single family home, and get the tenant out and shiny and sparkly and sell it.
Yeah, I think too, just, and we talked about this, like you said, we talked about this before the show, the headache of bringing a tenant short term to manage cash flow to sell a house, I don't think is really worth it. I think at that point, keep the house clean and open. Buyers like vacant properties. They don't like properties with tenants. On that note, Wayne, you said you bought one property previously tenanted. Did you not renew those tenants?
We did renew them.
Okay.
There was only like 4 or 5 months left, and the plan was once they moved out, we were going to renovate it. So just to keep it simple, we let them stay to the end of their lease.
Oh, but you don't have them anymore. They're gone now.
They're gone now. Yeah.
And
okay.
one more headache with the tenants in place. You could theoretically get away with the short lease, or as has been pointed out by numerous people, you can give them 90 days notice once conditions are removed on the sale. That's another hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
So who wants to take possession of a house like 110 days down the road? You know, most people that are buying are looking 60, 90 days down the road. Now suddenly there's another half month or even a month that's got to be added before they can even get possession. So you just, again, making it so much harder on yourself. And
you limit your buyer pool and you put another obstacle in the way to make that transaction go through.
And we talked about this at the beginning. So thankfully there's no tenants listening in right now. So theoretically, if a tenant knew how the system worked and they wanted to take advantage of the landlord, they could say at the last minute that, oh, you know what, I was going to move out, but I changed my mind now. So you've got a sale closing in 15 days, tenant's not moving. You threaten to evict them, which is going to take 21 to 30 days. You're going to lose your sale because the tenant didn't leave. And they go, I will leave if you give me $5,000. What are you going to do?
You just created a big headache. And you lost all your potential savings in that cash flow.
Yeah. So too many bad variables in that one.
Yeah. Uncontrollable variables from your side. You can't control that. Yeah.
Well, and somebody just pointed one of the comments. If the tenant really loves a place and they feel they might lose it, they'll sabotage the showings.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, tonight was the night we're having salmon. Tonight is the night we're not cleaning anything up. Tonight is the night we're leaving the garbage out. Whatever can be done. Oh yeah, we used to love this place, but it's just so loud now. We just, we're thinking of moving right away because it's just so loud in here. Whatever can be done.
Yeah, exactly. The neighbors are horrible. Whatever it might be, right?
And even if you do a 24-hour notice, those tenants don't have to leave. They're sitting on the couch with their feet up, watching Murder, She Wrote. Like, this is not good for real estate viewings.
Pulp Fiction, right? In their boxers.
It just is such a bad idea. But if the owner is in the middle of a lease, I guess that would kind of complicate things too, because the seller has to wait until the end of the lease. I mean, I don't know.
We're back to that 90-day thing that will still take place in the event of a sale. But it's
once the sale is completed.
Once conditions are removed, it's 90 days from conditions removed.
But if you're 6 months into a 12-month lease, you can't go to your tenant and tell them, hey, I'm selling the house, I need you to get out.
No.
Right? So you have to wait until the end of your... You can?
You can, but they don't have to leave because they've got a year's lease.
Yeah.
So you can't force them to.
Yeah.
You can negotiate, but then you're negotiating. There's no...
Yeah, do a cash for keys scenario.
Right.
It's, listen, I know this is going to cost you money, so not only will I give your security deposit back, and a lot of landlords don't know this, there is more than one security deposit in the world, and you don't have to give it back on the day they move out. You have 10 days to return the security deposit, which is a huge amount of leverage when you're dealing with a tenant.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can say, listen, if you clean the place up, if you move out early and we end this lease early, and we're mutually agreed on this because we can mutually agree to break the lease, I will make sure you get your security deposit on the day you move out. I won't hang on to it for the extra 10 days that I'm allowed. I will make this as smooth and easy. And to make it even easier, because this is so important to make you happy, here's another $500 or $1,000 that you'll get on the day you move out. Just because I appreciate you being my tenant and I really have to sell the property. So let's work together.
Right. It's very smart.
Whatever that magic number, I've talked to a lot of landlords about this, and it's like, somewhere in the one fence, I would never pay a tenant to leave. My thoughts are this: you're running a business. How much is it going to cost you in lost revenue, lost time, lost energy to have them stay another 2 or 3 months not paying if they know how to work the system versus giving them $500 or $1,000 so you can get in there, get the place cleaned up, get it re-rented, and start putting money back in your pocket? Do the math.
Yeah.
That maybe it's $500, maybe it's $2,000. If the market's moving downwards and you're trying to sell a house, maybe it's $10,000 in the worst case scenario. But whatever.
Well, it's a numbers game. Like emotionally, I would never want to pay a tenant. It's like, I've done this for you. Now you're sticking to me to take extra money from me. But from a business sense, well, like you said, Bill, if you hang on longer, it could cost you $10,000. If you offer the tenant $2,000 or $1,000 or $500, and that solves the problem, well, that saves you $8,500 or give or take. That makes sense to me.
And who knows what kind of retaliation they'll do on the property? It's like, will they damage all the walls? Will they cause other issues? So it really depends on the tenants. And if you chose good tenants, they're typically going to be more willing to work with you. But as we're seeing from a lot of the posts, some people aren't necessarily choosing the best tenants, and it gets worse and worse.
Yeah, and I like this post too that Samuel wrote. Tenant actually gets upset when your intention is to sell after they move in, or normally tenant do not rent a house that's on the market for sale. For sure, right? Someone's moving in thinking they have a long-term house, and now they have to uproot again, and they're kind of used as a short-term cash flow problem or a solution. Unless you're providing a short-term solution for a tenant that's well aware they're coming to a short-term rental, then that might work. But generally, to this point, it's kind of exactly what's happening. So
Adam's got a great comment there, or a great question, which Wayne can't wait to answer this one.
Can you use a damage deposit to pay unpaid rent? If yes, how do you put that on a statement of deductions or a statement of accounts?
Not while the tenancy is still active, but after they've left, after you've deducted all expenses, cleanup, anything along those lines that you're deducting from the damage deposit, if there's still room left in the damage deposit, then at that point you can put whatever's remaining towards any unpaid rents. The remainder you would have to file a claim with the RTDRS. Is that a good answer?
Nailed it.
Nicely
done.
Not while they're still living there. They can't be like, I don't have the rent this month. Just use my damage deposit. No, it doesn't work that way.
That is, damage deposits are not rent, and that's a dangerous precedent to do, because everything that is damage is out of your pocket after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you have deep pockets, go ahead and do it all the time. You'll have less deep pockets. So
that's gold right there.
All right. Oops.
How is the landlord world right now? How's everybody doing? How are you doing, Bill? Like, is it good? Like, are you dealing with lots of headaches?
No.
No. Yeah, it's actually been pretty decent for me. A lot of people are like, they reach out to me and they say, COVID and stuff, and sir, how's things? And things aren't actually all that bad. What about you, MacKenzie?
Yeah, I'm 6 doors. I'm down to 5 now, so I'm doing a little bit of a shuffling. I did not miss any rent over the summer. Knock on wood there. I did do a bit of a thank you when kind of COVID got really big around April there. I sent out, what was it? That food delivery service. It's totally losing my...
DoorDash.
One of those, the Canadian one, not Uber. It doesn't matter. I gave out $50 gift cards to all my tenants. I said, hey, support the local business. People are struggling right now. Here's a thanks for being good tenants and paying your rent on time. I did it after they paid the rent on time the first month to encourage that behavior going forward. But I've got 1 vacancy right now. that I'm feeling it's a little bit later in the year, but I have raised rent. I'm getting some feedback, so I'll see how it goes. Probably ask that question again in a couple of weeks' time here. But so far, so good. Oh, and I did have a vacancy over the summer that I did raise rents on too, so that was nice.
So this is the ongoing thing. We see the horrible instances that people have. We see that landlord in Montreal who was fined $14,000. We see that house up in northern Alberta that was just demolished on the inside. Those are the aberrations. Those are rare. They don't happen very often. You talk to 90% of the landlords out there, and they've got reasonably good tenants. And I think we had a conversation in one of the comments earlier, a few months back, where somebody was saying majority of tenants are all bad. And I'm saying, there might be 5, maybe 10% that are really bad, but you probably got a good solid 50, 60% that are pretty good. Maybe another 10 or 15% that are just exceptional. And, if you're doing all your screening, you're doing all that legwork at the front, and making sure you get the right people, you don't have a lot of problems. And you work with them. When we first hit COVID, I don't know how many different landlord talks I had where I was saying, talk to your tenants, get in front of this, make sure they know what's going on, make sure they know what resources are out there, make sure they know they can reach out to you in advance if there's a problem, instead of calling on the first saying, I got no money.
Right.
And if they know you're out there and you're trying to help them, and it's a relationship versus a landlord boss scenario, it makes a huge difference. It's just your game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's dive into this question. This is from, I lost my live view of the page. I don't know who asked this question. Someone can help me out with. I'll trust one of you guys. But anyways, what are the legalities of asking for a SIN number on an application? We demand it from our tenants. They supplied it, but they were not happy about it and said that what we were doing was illegal.
It is illegal. You can't ask for their SIN number. What?
You can ask, but you can't make it a requirement.
Yeah. Now, what I tell tenants is, if your name is John Smith, you probably want to provide your social insurance number. Because there's a very good chance I could find the wrong one and he could have a horrible credit history and you're not going to get this place because of it. If your name is Anton Zigaloff Magnathansky, there's a pretty good chance you're the only one. So I don't necessarily need a SIN number to identify it. So, that's just how you have to play it through. So,
Wayne?
Oh, man. Did you say Wayne?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, I didn't hear my name. I was just laughing. Sorry. Yeah, Bill's absolutely right. SIN number, I'm assuming, what are people asking for? Are they asking for to pull credit, or are they asking to use
it?
this
is an application. So
yeah.
This would be like, I'm applying to rent a place.
Yeah, there's other ways. You can also get them to provide it for you. What we do is we normally just, say, go pull your Equifax credit report. You're going to need it for every other landlord you apply with. So, and most landlords are good enough that if you actually do sign a lease, and that's what we do, if you sign a lease with us, we'll reimburse you the $24 for it. But you're going to need it. So, and it's good for however many days.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway here, you can certainly ask for a SIN. It's not a requirement. You can't force it. It has to be an optional field that they can either choose to fill in or not fill it in. There's great services out there like Single Key. We've got a discount on the membership with. Namely is another good credit checking service out there. They are a third party that this tenant can go and apply with their SIN. You can get the report directly from Equifax. And that's the way I highly recommend doing it, because if you go and get the credit score directly from that tenant, they could very easily Photoshop it. It doesn't take very long to do that. It's just a fraud prevention strategy. Get the information directly from a trusted third party. But to the question here that you're asking, you can't require it. You can definitely ask for it, but it has to be optional, and it has to be clearly stated optional on the application, or you are doing it illegally.
Yeah, they did say they use it to pull credit, but you really just need their name and their date of birth, and it's back to how common their name is. That's where the issue rises.
Yeah, I would still ask for a SIN too. If you can get, but you just can't force it.
Right.
I went through our questions. Did I? Hold on here. Oh, no, I got one left. And then we can start wrapping up the show here. So let's get posted in.
That one.
Yes, the last one. This is a huge red flag to me, but I'll let you guys take a stab at it first. I have a new tenant moving in October 1st. She asked if she could pay the deposit in installments. I'm leaning towards saying that deposit is paid in full and rent is in installments. What would be the best way to do it? This question came from Rebecca.
Next tenant.
Yeah, that's it. This is all red flags. If you have a tenant that can't come up with enough money to make a damage deposit in a single payment, you can expect the same problems every time you collect the rent on the first. It's just a huge red flag. You're going to want someone that's a little more financially stable, so you know you can get your bills paid on time.
Let the desperate landlords have the desperate tenants. We don't need them.
Yeah.
And going back to like those horrible stories you're talking about earlier, it's normally the desperate landlords and the desperate tenants that make those horrible stories that make the news.
You were better off to stay vacant than to take a bad tenant.
Yeah, 100%.
You need to build up your reserves so you have a few months extra lying around and potentially extra money lying in other places in case it extends beyond that. You know, a typical eviction is going to cost you a couple months worth of rent. You know, between the vacancies, the cleanup, the lost rent, and never mind the time and energy. So is that $1,200, $2,500, $3,000? So, you know, stay vacant for another month or two, and it's not the same pain.
Yeah.
So I saw Barbara just posted. Can you ask your question, Barbara, in the chat? We'll get it on there. I apologize if we missed your question. It is possible to make mistakes. So
we're having a lot of fun. So
yeah, I'm just going through the list here again. It's kind of a challenging that didn't come over correctly. I don't see it. Maybe I didn't copy and paste it, but yeah, Barbara, we'll just kind of hang on another minute or two for you to ask your question, and we'll be happy to take it on, and you'll get the last question of the night. No, it's a very long one. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry, I don't have it. I'm going through my notes right now, and I don't see it. What we'll do, I'll tell you, Barbara, is I'll track down that question. I'll confer with some trusted landlords here, and I'll get a post going for you. I'll answer your question specifically. I do apologize that I missed it on the show here. So we'll have that answer for you on its own post. All right. Well, you know, we're right at 8 o'clock. That's been a good hour. Gentlemen, Bill and Wayne, thank you very much for joining me tonight and having a chat about landlord in Alberta, because it's such a fun, nerdy subject that no one else has a conversation about. So I appreciate you diving in with me.
Thank you so much for having me on again. This is fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So as always, I'd love to give you guys a bit of a limelight to kind of share a passion project or what you guys are working on. I saw actually on social media there, Wayne, that you just launched a new business.
Oh man, that'd be another hour trying to explain that one. Yeah, I mean, we got no shortage of things we're working on. I do have to point out, because my beautiful wife is listening, she has a real estate investors women's mastermind, which is amazing. I know she's only got one spot left, but definitely look into that. Gabby Hillier Masterminds. I'll put the link below if you'll allow me to. It's a perfect mastermind for women who are looking to take action and to take their investment business to the next level. And then my podcast, check that out as well, The Real Estate Investor Dad. MacKenzie's been on it. Actually, MacKenzie, your episode's going live on Friday, so keep an eye out for that as well. Bill is going to be on in the near future. I haven't told Bill yet, but surprise, Bill. I've been wanting to have you on my podcast for a long time. It's just there's just this huge lineup of emails that people want to be on, so I'm trying to deal with that. But
no worries.
Yeah, but yeah, keep an eye out for MacKenzie's this Friday. It's coming out Friday morning.
Very exciting. Cool. Bill.
I got nothing this week. Sorry.
Awesome. I just I was going through my notes and actually my messenger chat, and I found Barbara's question. So I am actually tracking down a special guest speaker for you, Barbara. So I won't be able to do in the show, obviously. She asked a really good question about tax advice since we're coming up to year end for landlords, and if there's any changes with the current tax structure for 2020. So I've reached out to my my bookkeeper, and I'm doing some other feelers. So I am going to get some sort of a tax expert on the show, whether it be an accountant or a bookkeeper or tax specialist, to kind of give us some generic feedback on what rules have changed and how they're going to affect us, so you guys can make some informed decisions. Excuse me, got a bug in my throat. Make some informed decisions as you wrap up your year end. Should you be spending money or not spending money, so you can protect yourself as much as possible and minimize your tax exposure. So that will be coming up probably. It's going to probably be a middle of October, end of October kind of show is what I'm thinking right now. I'll have a better idea when I get some feedback from the people I've asked to be on the show. So that's why, Barbara, we didn't get to your question tonight. I wanted to have a really good resourceful person to answer those questions correctly for you. Other than that, we'll wrap up another show. So folks, thanks for joining us. I saw we had up as 24, 25 people tuned in at once tonight. So thanks for being a part of the show. We really appreciate it. I hope you guys found value. As always, keep asking questions, stay engaged in the group. This is definitely, I think, the best resource we have for landlords out there. Is really a community effort in getting your answers solved. So thank you very much. Take care and have a good